Hi ladies, how are you? How's everyone today? Hope you're having a wonderful day and enjoying things. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Naomi Judge. I'm a naturopath and nutritionist. And my Facebook Live series at the moment, I've been focusing on cyclic moods, anger and irritability. I've taken you through supporting your moods in terms of thyroid, what kind of diet will support you during your luteal phase, the influence of histamine, the influence of blood sugar. So I'm really enjoying this series that I'm doing, and I've actually been working behind the scenes because I can see there are a lot of women out there that need support. So I've been working behind the scenes, and I'm actually working on a program that I'll be launching in the coming months. So I'm very excited about that. So there's more to come on this, and supporting women with anger, irritability, depression, and also those women with really severe PMS and also really severe PMDD, supporting those women through their cycle and helping them understand the triggers and giving them the tools that they need to level out the moods and reduce these anger, these mood swings, these agitation, these fits of rage, particularly during the luteal phase. So watch this space. I'll be talking more about that program in the coming weeks. But today, I want to focus on something a little bit different today. Last week we talked about histamine, and I took you through a low histamine diet to support you through your luteal phase if you have a lot of anxiety, depression, mood swings, also even water retention. So I have had one client recently do the low histamine plan, and she's lost a bit of weight that was this kind of inflammation and fluid. So it can help with weight as well, although we're really focusing on these mental and emotional symptoms because they can be so debilitating, and let's face it, they are a priority to get your mental kind of state of mind and well-being in place before the physical comes. So this is why I'm focusing here. I'm really passionate about this. Today we're talking about brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You may have heard of it before, you may have not, but the reason I want to talk about it is because it kind of links a few things together. And some of you that suffer from cyclic mood swings, particularly those of you that suffer intensely, particularly those of you that suffer from PMDD, or just can't control your moods during that particular time in your cycle, I really want to bring some of these missing links together and just help you understand other things that can be going on, because we talk about hormone balance, but a lot of it when it comes to mood, when it comes to agitation, anxiety, depression, and moods that you can't control, it's not just about those hormones, it's about other things. And I think once we look at it a little bit more holistically, that's where you'll get the best results. And one of the hardest conditions to treat is PMDD, but when we take all these facets and we look at diet, we look at neurotransitions, we look at BDNF, which is your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, we can really give you support and get change quite quickly, and it can be quite dramatic, and that's extremely exciting. BDNF is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This is a kind of a part of the family of growth factors, and it has a lot to do with plasticity in the brain. You know, why is this important? Because this prevents disease, it prevents Alzheimer's, it can prevent depression, it can support people with bipolar, it supports your memory, better memory, and more importantly, it also helps with recovery from trauma and injury. So if you've ever had any brain trauma, even banging your head, or where you haven't had to have surgery, this brain trauma can actually reduce your BDNF. And if you've got your BDNF nice and high, it can repair your brain much better. Plasticity is important. The reason this is important is your brain's ability to form new kind of connections, new neural connections through your life. So not just when you're a child, but all the way through your life. It allows cells to regenerate, and also it allows neurons to take different pathways. So for example, if you were to have an injury in a certain part of your brain, BDNF can help your brain form new pathways so it doesn't affect you so much. So it's a really important protein. It's a really important growth factor. And what we have found is this growth factor can be lower in women, and it can also be lower at a particular time in your cycle, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is important for plasticity, it's important for your brain function, and it's important for development and repair. But it's also important for those of you that suffer from extreme depression, cyclic depression, SAD syndrome, where you get depressed in winter. It's really important that we keep this high. So let me just take you through some of the signs and symptoms of low BDNF. So we've got one of the functions that it does is it suppresses appetite. So what happens when BDNF does lower is it can cause that binge style eating. And what we have found is women who have a history of bulimia, anorexia, or binge eating food disorders, eating disorders, they tend to have a history with BDNF, and it tends to be a problem. So we know that women with eating disorders earlier on in life, there's a possibility, and this is a risk factor, of going on to have issues with your moods, cyclic moods later on in life. And particularly there can be that weight gain as well, particularly if BDNF is low and you get those food cravings during your luteal phase, which I know is a problem for many of you. So those intense cravings where you craving, and you eat, and it's kind of, you can't be satiated, you can't fill up, you eat until you feel sick. And that can happen particular time in your cycle, that luteal phase, so after ovulation, just before your period. And we know that BDNF plays a critical role in preventing eating disorders, preventing binge eating. So that's to look out for, and definitely look at your cycle. And if you find you have issue with appetite control, this might be an area that you need to look at. Other symptoms are sleep. When BDNF is low, we have broken sleep. It's hard to get into deep sleep. Also with moods, it's kind of like a bipolar. It can be like a bipolar type mood. So that kind of cyclic mood swing. So you're fine at a particular time in your cycle, but then as soon as it kind of hits, and if BDNF is low, your brain goes off into a tangent. So it's as though your brain is uncontrollable. It goes off into a tangent. And this can be that sign of low BDNF. So it's more like you'll snap with anxiety, or you'll snap with anger, you'll snap with rage, or you'll snap with a low mood. And it's kind of quite quick, and there's no warning. And it's completely different to your normal personality. So it's not like you're like this 28 days of the month. You're like this for a very short period of time. I mean, it can be 2 weeks, and unfortunately for some women it does go on a little bit longer, but it's that snap in the brain, and it's very much brain related. You feel it's brain related. It happens so quickly. It's definitely depression, so long-term depression. We know women with low thyroid, hypothyroid, suffer from depression, and there is a link between depression, hypothyroidism, and low BDNF as well. Another interesting symptom, and I want to talk about this because I know this is an issue for some of you, and it might be a cyclic symptom, and it's low systolic blood pressure. So when you get your blood pressure taken, your arm by your GP, or you might have a monitor at home, ideally 120/80. 120 is a systolic, 80 is a diastolic. Now, some women get low blood pressure at particular times in their cycle, so this 120 will come down. And we know the signs and symptoms of low systolic blood pressure: dizziness, dehydration, so you get thirsty, can be fainting, sit to stand, so you stand up quickly and you feel dizzy, lack of concentration, blurred vision, feeling cold and clammy, fatigue, and also depression. Depression is a huge one. So with the low BDNF, you can have low systolic blood pressure, but it might affect you more during your luteal phase. So you might have perfect blood pressure the rest of the time. And I know this does affect some of you because I have been told by clients before they always get low systolic blood pressure. So it's something to look out for. The systolic is the pressure in the arteries. During the contraction of the heart muscle, the heart contracts, the blood gets pushed, you get that you get that contraction in the arteries, and when that's lower, that can cause symptoms of depression, that can cause symptoms of dizziness. And the depression can last, that depression can last for days, and it can be one of the main causes of depression in particular times in your cycle, particularly if you've got that low blood pressure. So if you know that's you, have a little think about if it's all the time or if it might be cyclic, when you might be suffering from it. So in terms of being at risk, well, BDNF, you can actually test your DNA. So you can use Smart DNA, you can use any of those genome swabs. They take a swab from your mouth, or they take your spit, and then they test your genes. And some people are genetically predisposed to low BDNF, so they have to do more to get those levels up. So if you've been suffering all your life from this, it could possibly be you. So you just need to take some time to get your BDNF levels up and support yourself there. But other risk factors, past traumatic events. So when we have a severe traumatic events, that has been shown to lower your BDNF levels. This can be anywhere in your past. Also, having high cortisol levels as a baby, even just after conception, having very high cortisol levels. A family history of bipolar can put you at risk. History of eating disorders, which I've talked about. Unmanaged depression. So what we have seen is women that take antidepressants like SSRIs, it actually raises BDNF. So if you suffer from depression, or you've got hypothyroidism, because hypothyroidism can lead to depression, and it actually can make it very difficult to manage. But if you do suffer from depression and it's unmanaged, so you're trying to manage it but it's just not managed, that can be something that's actually suppressing your BDNF levels. So just have a think about that. Now, the unmanaged depression will be more this depression all the time, rather than this kind of cyclic mood swings, cyclic depression, cyclic anxiety. Also, minimal social interaction. And a lot of women find during their luteal phase, this is the phase where you do have that minimal social interaction. But studies have also shown that minimal social interaction from birth, so if you weren't around a lot of people, or maybe you didn't have brothers and sisters, minimal social interaction from birth can put you at risk of depression and low BDNF. So we know that social interaction helps, and we know that at these times in your cycle, when you have no inclination to see anybody, you really don't want to be seen in public, you really don't want to hang out with your friends, these are kind of the times you need to push yourself a little bit and socialize and see your friends a little bit more. We know also women who suffer from PMDD, severe PMS, and those who get cyclic mood swings are also at risk. So with the BDNF, it has a natural cycle. It has the day-night cycle. So that's its natural cycle. And generally during your follicular phase, which is when you're bleeding, it's a little bit low. But what studies have shown in women that suffer severely from PMDD, PMS, anger, mood swings, irritability, what studies have shown is it's actually the luteal phase that you have issues with, and the BDNF drops dramatically during your luteal phase. And what this does is this exacerbates those symptoms. I can't talk today, I'm jumping over my words, tripping over my words. It exacerbates those symptoms. So looking at your cycle and looking at where you feel worse, we're really focusing, have a think about your cycle and have a think about your mood swings, because if it's in the luteal phase, and this is really critical for you to look at this BDNF and have a look at your lifestyle, have a look at your diet during this phase, and make sure it's supporting your mood swings, make sure it's supporting your BDNF. But studies have shown that women who suffer quite greatly in the luteal phase generally have an extremely lower BDNF than other women, and also much lower than men. This means for your mood swings that if you're naturally out of balance in your luteal phase, so your luteal phase starts from ovulation through to your period, and this is generally about 2 weeks, and for some women this is extremely severe. If you generally suffer anyway from low serotonin levels, blood sugar issues, high cortisol, then what's going to happen is that low BDNF will set in, and that's going to exacerbate these symptoms. And this inhibits your brain from kind of realizing this. The low BDNF is what inhibits your brain from realizing this and then supporting you to get out of it. So this is where you get stuck in that mind trap of where you can't see past your reactivity to a situation. So you react to a situation, whether it's anger, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, you're reacting, and your brain with the low BDNF, you find it difficult to kind of come to terms with the situation or see the situation in a different light. Whereas during another part of your cycle, it could be exact same situation and you react and you can see it completely differently. This is the problem with having low BDNF. So I'm sure that resonates with some of you, and I'm sure some of you are wondering what you can do. And there's a few different things that you can do and a few different ways to actually mitigate this low BDNF and try and raise it. And studies have shown that you can raise it. You can raise it quite quickly. There's one study that shows cardio, so running, so you could do running or cycling or swimming, over a 3-month period raises your BDNF threefold. So it raises it that much. So there are things you can do. So this is using cardio. Also, intense interval and strength training has been shown to increase BDNF as well. So any form of exercise, but particularly making sure you've got this good mix between cardio, intensity, and maybe even some strength exercise, and making sure you're doing this on a weekly basis. And give yourself time, you know, set yourself a protocol and a plan and give yourself this 3 months. Generally, I find with my clients, when we start working on these things and these issues with their moods, it can resolve quite quickly. You know, when you get it right and you're working on the neurotransmitters, you're working on the BDNF, you're working on your diet, it can resolve quite quickly, and they can notice by the a cycle or two later, coming into the luteal phase, that it supports them and it reduces those moods. Deep sleep is another one. Then this is a hard one, because when you have low melatonin, when you have excess estrogen or low progesterone, this suppresses BDNF even more. Then light sleeping again suppresses BDNF. So getting a deep sleep is first looking at your sleep pattern. What is your sleep pattern? Then it's making sure that you're setting up your sleep for a deep sleep. So the usual blackout blinds, blue light blocker glasses, read before you go to bed, have your phone off, don't look at your phone before bed, try not to watch television in bed, all these kind of things that help. You also need to take it one step further, and you need to make sure there's nothing that's inhibiting you from sleeping. So foods can do it. So garlic is a big one. I can't have garlic in the evening because it's too excitatory for me and it stops me getting into a deep sleep. I also can't eat seaweed before bed. I can't get into a deep sleep with seaweed. Seaweed raises your glutamate, and so it can cause a light sleep for people. Eating too close to bed can cause you to have a light sleep, but then again, not eating enough. So this is where you need to just spend some time and you track your sleep, and you can use an app, you know, a sleep cycle app, and you can just look at, you can use your Fitbit, you can just look at your sleep cycles, look at your diet, look at the foods that are involved. But I would highly recommend just cutting out those foods that are really excitatory, sticking to foods that calm the nervous system, and having a good meal at night, but maybe not too close to bed. I tend to have a little snack now before bed because I go to bed quite early. And I eat, and I was finding I was waking up at that 3 a.m. and that's kind of like cortisol, glucose waking you up. So I have a tiny snack before bed, maybe, half a banana, or sometimes I'll have just, a handful of nuts or a small chia pudding. And that doesn't affect me, that actually helps me get through the night. And also not drinking fluid or liquid. Now, another thing I find keeps me up, this is interesting, is lemon and water at night time. So lemon can increase your histamine levels, which can cause issues with your sleep. It's excitatory neurotransmitter. So I tend to have my lemon and water in the morning, And at night time, just more calming things, you know, like a chamomile tea. But I try not to drink before bed, like 1 hour before bed. Otherwise, I find I am kept awake. So you need to experiment yourself and just see what causes your sleep to be broken. If it's waking at 3 a.m., then it's that typical blood sugar rise. So you're not having anything you need to have more to sustain you, more energy to get you through the night sleeping. If you're sensitive to sound, sensitive to noise, anything wakes you up, your nervous system, that's generally low magnesium. And light is a big one that'll wake you up. So you could wear an eye mask or just make sure your room's nice and dark. So getting deep sleep is pivotal to supporting your BDNF levels. It's really important. So just work on that a little bit and try and get that in order. I'm going to talk about that more. And these things I'm talking about here, it's all going to be baked into my 6-week program that I'll be launching soon. So I'll talk about that more. But sunlight is a huge one. We know how important sunlight is. So BDNF levels have been shown to be lower in darker months. So winter, so SAD, which is sad. And I know a lot of you get worse periods, worse symptoms, more depression through the winter months. And then summer comes and things just seem to pick up and get better. This highlights the importance that you need to get out. You need to get out in the sunlight. So minimum, you need about 10 to 15 minutes in the sun each day. Ideally, you need to be getting out first thing in the morning. So whether that's just sitting on your balcony, sitting by a window, not going straight to your computer, so some kind of natural sunlight first thing in the morning, and then again in the day. So whether that's about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, this regulates your melatonin and regulates your circadian rhythm, but the sunlight has actually been shown to raise the BDNF. So if you can do that and then pick a day in the week, whether it's a Saturday, Sunday, a day that you're off, and try and get a big dose of sunshine. And even if it's overcast, you still go out. If it's cold, you've just got to go out. You've got to go out in that daylight and support yourself, because if you're stuck in with lights, artificial lights, and your computer screens all day, that's a big one for affecting your mood swings and depression, and lowering and suppressing BDNF as well. So sunlight is a big one. Also taking vitamin D supplementation as well. So don't forget to get your vitamin D levels checked and just see what level they are. We want them 80 or above. If they're under, you need to be supplementing, and you need to be getting some good sunlight, eating things like eggs and mushrooms, animal products, dairy products to get your vitamin D up. Okay, melatonin and progesterone. These are the two hormones that are pivotal again for keeping you feeling happy, in a good mood. Some women with PMDD already have high progesterone, and they're just reacting to the byproducts of progesterone, which is due to having issues with blood glucose. But it's good to get tested, see what your progesterone levels are doing, and then you can raise your melatonin by having regular sleep at the same time every day, to bed up, and just keeping yourself in a nice rhythm. That will support your melatonin levels, and it's important. Both the melatonin and progesterone will both raise your BDNF. This is why women on the oral contraceptive pill generally have lower BDNF, and women also going through menopause can have lower BDNF as well, as in the luteal phase for some. And then I wanted to talk quickly about breathing, because I think this is a really good strategy you can do at home. And you can just Google this, but the Wim Hof Breathing Method, which does raise your adrenaline a little bit and supports your neurotransmitters. This is a form of breathing where you're holding your breath and you're breathing out, and then you're holding it, and it kind of causes a little bit of hypoxia, so lower oxygen to the brain. This has been shown to raise BDNF. So have a little look. He's got a free practice on his website, so you can just have a look at Wim Hof method. Don't be put off by the intensity. This can really support you. So I really recommend you take a look at the Wim Hof breathing method for supporting your moods, cyclic moods, anxiety, depression, particularly if you've got low BDNF. Lastly, I just want to talk about just things to avoid, and it's important to avoid these, but what I understand and I appreciate is it's hard also if you're having a really bad luteal phase, if your mood swings are bad, you're angry, you're agitated, this isn't the time that you're thinking straight and you're able to assess what's good and what's bad for you. But I encourage you to try and at least stop sugar during this phase in your cycle. And if you are binge eating, try and binge eat on something that's healthy. You know, you could make some kind of like an oatmeal, maybe with a little bit of maple syrup, maybe with some coconut milk, maybe with some currants or something like that. So maybe with some fruit. So just something that's not so refined in sugar. You can kind of find your little holy grail if you really are craving that kind of sweetness. You can find something that will support you. So please do that. Alcohol is a huge one that suppresses serotonin and BDNF, so that's a no-no during the luteal phase. The problem being is during the luteal phase is that time in your cycle where some women do crave alcohol, so you just need to be aware of that and try and swap out for something different. And another thing that suppresses it is loneliness. So not socializing, not seeing people that you love, not interacting. And of course, this is a big one right now. So a big one right now obviously is loneliness and maybe some people not getting enough sunlight due to the lockdown. So I think that knowing that, make an effort, pop it in your calendar when you know you're coming up to this phase in your cycle where you're feeling a bit bad. Try not to do things that cause you stress. Try not to socialize with people that cause you stress. Pick those couple of friends or those people that really make you feel good and book in a coffee date or book in a dinner date and have that in your diary. So know your cycle, know when you feel your best, know when you need that support, know when you feel your worst. Because when you feel your worst, that's when you need to start socializing. That's when you need to kind of see people. So book that in, that's really important. So that was BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and the importance it plays in boosting your moods during your cycle. When BDNF is high enough, it can help level out your moods, it can make you happier, it can make you more joyful, it can support serotonin and dopamine, so it can give you that zing, that get up and a go. It can help your libido and just generally feel more relaxed about life and happier and a better well-being. So I want to talk about this a little bit more, and I will be talking about it a little bit more next week. I'm going to just touch on supplements that support it, supplements that you can bake into your routine that maybe you will find helpful and that support you through this. So I hope you enjoyed this. I will be uploading it and also writing a blog, so I will share that in my newsletter in the coming weeks. If you've got any questions at all, please pop them below and I will see you next week. Thanks guys, bye.